Hello everyone. Hello, welcome to our Youth Reference Hub initiative, Virtual Cafe. We've been doing this cafe since May, if you remember, and today we will be talking about challenges and opportunities in technology and the innovation during the times of COVID-19 with two super interesting guests, namely Yusra Shariff from Tanzania, and we will have also Edson Zandamela. He's a Mozambican. He's now based in the United States of America, and our conversation will last approximately 45 minutes. And well, let's try to manage this, because if the conversation is going to be exciting, maybe we can go a little bit more than 45 minutes. But anyway, if you are now there watching the video, feel free to join our conversation. If you have opinions, if you have comments regarding the topic of today, you can write in the comment space below. Okay, feel free to do that. We have now in the studio Edson Zandamela, that I'm very delighted to have him in this space. Edson Zandamela, if you don't know him, I can give you a little bit a brief let's say bio of Edson Zandamela. Edson Zandamela is a recent grad computer science and psychology double major. Is passionate about the intersection of psychometrics, cognitive computing, and software engineering. Now he's based in the United States of America, as I say, and we will have one more guest, is Yusra Shariff. She is not already in the studio, but she will come, because she's been talking to us that she's trying to enter in the studio. So I want to invite now Edson Zandamela to the live, to the show. Edson, welcome to our show.
Hi, Rogério. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I'm very excited to be here with you and everybody else live. Thank you.
Oh, that's really nice. So today we're going to talk about the challenges and the opportunities in technology and innovation during the times of COVID-19. And we know that Edson is how can I say, is a geek on technology fields, and maybe you are an authorized voice to give us a little bit the picture on how the COVID-19 is impacting the innovation sector and technology itself. So let's start by saying, by getting to know who is Edson before going to the question itself.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the humble words, Rogério. I appreciate it. So just like you said, I am a computer science and psychology double major, and I love talking about technology and how it's changing the world. But as a psychologist, I'm also drawn to look up to how this technology that we're using is changing us, the people. So on my daily life, I usually go back and forth between these two fields, about whether it's how AI is transforming us, and, how IoT and DevOps and cloud computing is playing a role in the industry, as well as how, the people that are using these technologies are being affected by them, either it be for a mental health perspective or a cognitive science perspective. So I would say that in a nutshell, I am very passionate about these two fields, and I love to go back and forth between them.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing this very special, inspiring bio of Edson Zandamela. Edson, so the outbreak of COVID-19 brought challenges in every sector worldwide, and our focus is just technology and innovation. What is your perception in terms of the challenges that COVID-19 brought in a special sector like technology and innovation?
Well, that's a really good question, Rogério. And I'll say this. I'll first talk about tech. And in terms of challenges, really, in technology, I personally think that there is two sides of the spectrum, if you allow me to talk about them. And in one instance, we see a lot of opportunities in the tech industry where we have companies such as Zoom, Skype, DoorDash, and Amazon making a lot of profit because of the COVID, because now we have people that are staying at home and need to get their work done. So, they're going to seek for services such as Google Meet, Zoom, Skype, and all of this, because they need to use them to get their work done and connect with their peers, right? And we also have companies that work with delivery services. For example, we need people who are delivering goods to others because no one is allowed to get out of their homes. We have Netflix, for example, is another great example. They are actually benefiting from the COVID, not in the real sense of benefiting, but there has been research shown that people are actually engaging more with Netflix these days because they're just sitting at home and they have nothing to do. So you will see that in this spectrum, we have these companies that are actually experiencing a boom in a way that they're getting a lot more traffic in the services they provide because people are at home due to the pandemic. However, there is the other spectrum of things where we have the downside, which is the case where companies are experiencing a lot of hardships that were created with the pandemic. One example would be, for example, 4DX cinemas. People are not allowed to attend cinemas these days, and no, most of the movies that were supposed to be released early 2020 are being postponed to 2021. So the tech companies that work with these technologies are definitely experiencing, a hardship navigating the pandemic. Another example would be companies that work with flights and travel agencies, for instance, websites such as Expedia. No one is there now looking for, the best flight to go to either, Asia, Europe, or anywhere else because people are not allowed to travel. In fact, most of the international flights have been canceled. So, I personally think that there is one side of the industry that it is experiencing good results given the pandemic. However, there is also another side of the spectrum that's actually suffering, that's, experiencing hardships and a lot of loss in terms of money and resources because people are not using their services anymore.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
a perspective on the technology side.
Okay. Thanks for these broad visions and broad like comments related to the question I gave you. But when you look at the African continent, because in Africa, in fact, we have the challenge of connectivity, and even the enterprises and many companies, they don't invest too much in technology, and most of them they don't believe in technology. And suddenly, when we see without the break of COVID-19, people are being forced to use technology, and there is another challenge, like the challenge of learning how to use it. I want your sensitivity on this topic regarding Africa continent.
Well, that's a really heavy backpack on my back. The African continent is huge, Rosario. I can't certainly talk about all of it. However, I could mention, of some of the experiences that I've heard from the connections that I have, not just in Mozambique, obviously, but across the continent, within the friends that I have. And I'll tell you this, it's I think that COVID really exposed a lot of hardships, not just for the developing countries, but even for the first like already developed countries, right? So, and I think that uh, learning is just a skill that is so critical to our daily living ever since we were born when we were babies, not we're somewhat we're expected to crawl, but not everyone crawls. Some babies just stand up and begin walking. Some, whenever they feel like they're confident to walk. And that's to say that I do believe that there are hardships. A lot of people have to learn, and in my opinion, that's where most of us who already know how to navigate these technologies that the people need to know would definitely play a critical role in sharing the knowledge. How do we actually help these people engaging with these technologies? How do you help your high school professor teaching a class on Google Meet or on WhatsApp and all these things? And I really think that it's my hope that we all believe that we can learn and go for it, because there definitely are a lot of hardships that people experience worldwide, across the country as well as the continent. But really, the ability to learn is just something that's so amazing, and I can speak for it on my psychology background. It's just so amazing how the brain can learn, a million things, and sometimes at a speed that no one can even keep track of.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So we have now our second guest already in the studio, Yusra. She's already here, and we're very, very happy to host her. I didn't talk too much about Yusra, but Yusra, she's a Tanzanian, is an aspiring social legal researcher, fascinated about technology and medical sciences, inequality, like segregation, something like this. And I will call her now to be in the studio. Yusra, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Rogério, for the kind remarks. I'm sorry I'm very late to join in. Technical problems, the irony of the topic today.
Mhm.
Hi, Yusra,
So,
welcome, and I'm happy to be here with you. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on today's topic.
Wow. Very interesting, yeah? I don't know where you
sure.
started, and yeah.
Yeah, I can give you just a brief picture. We just talked about the impact
Okay.
of the COVID-19 on technology, and Edson was giving us his ideas on how the COVID-19 impacted the technology sector. And also, we talked about a little bit how
Yeah.
the challenge that Africa as a continent have now with COVID-19, especially the companies. As we know, we have problems or we have challenges of connectivity, and even the companies, they don't use too much the technology in their day-to-day life. And Edson was talking about this, and will be also nice have your inputs on this. Maybe you can start by telling us your perceptions or your ideas on how the COVID-19 really impacted the technology uh, in your perception.
I think COVID-19 so far has kind of like accelerated what they call the fourth industrial revolution, I'd say, fusing together physical, digital, and biological worlds in making the very notion of is making actually the very notion of innovation as countries leverage data, and we're making not only global terms of trade but also transforming the nature and distribution of wealth. I think COVID-19 has kind of accelerated how we're blurring the lines between the physical, the digital, and the biological. Um, for example, I would say during the COVID-19 pandemic, 10 track trends have been like emerging or have been accelerating, including digital payments, where people kind of were reluctant, especially in Africa, to use paper money. Like everybody was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get coronavirus through paper money," and instead, everybody has been using mobile money. We don't have digital technology payment very much like in our economies, but I think we've been. I mean, mobile money technology has been very well like upgraded during the coronavirus, as well as we've seen the use of like robotics in Rwanda, where they use it to monitor patients instead of having like physical assistants going into the rooms. So in my opinion, I think COVID-19 has really helped reduce the spread of, technology and innovation has really reduced the spread of COVID-19 while helping businesses stay open. Like technology has played a key role in minimizing the risk as well as helping business stay open during this pandemic.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, what's your perception in terms
And I
of
believe
this?
there is like lots of opportunities that we can explore and learn from it, including like how can we make our societies more resilient in the face of pandemics and in the future threats. Like we shouldn't just imagine pandemic. There is going to be lots of pandemics coming our way, and how do we use or leverage tech and innovation to prepare ourselves for the future, for the future pandemics and for the future crises that are going to happen. Maybe Edson, you'd want to add on onto the introduction.
Oh, thank you, Yusra. I had actually talked about that. However, one thing I'll definitely add is to one thing that you were talking about just earlier, which is how a lot of small tech companies are reacting to uh, the impact of the coronavirus outbreak. And I think Rwanda is actually now using also drones to deliver medicines as well as testing kits across their country, which is, I think, a really great outcome. I think it's a really good thumbs up for Rwanda, and I hope that many of other countries can do that. And on top of that, I 100% agree with you that there has been a rise in the use of mobile payment systems, which is really, really great. And maybe to say that another great addition that we would hope to see is, more access to actual medical assistance during the pandemic for the people in our community. I think that it's probably a challenge, we all are experiencing definitely, but I would hope that, we are striving to make sure that, people could still have some sort of medical assistance throughout this period, because let's say my granny is at home now and she had her consultation with a doctor, which happens probably every once in a while or once every 3 months. Unfortunately, she cannot exit the house at this time and point because it's more critical for her. So, not only these kinds of things we're talking about, telemedicine or telehealth, I think these are some of the resources that I think COVID has just, brought to our attention that it's probably something that we should probably look into having to work. But, obviously we're not going to expect all this much, simply because the outbreak exposed it to us. And all I hope is that really we can just continue to thrive, continue to push, and make sure that we can go beyond these challenges that we've been exposed to and many more that we still have.
Just to add on to on how we could invest more into health. I think I was just reading the World Economic Forum. They were trying an intervention or some sort of a program where they enhance like community health workers who are mainly like youth, like young people in Kenya, and they were seeing how they could actually deploy like digital technology into helping people in the society, for example tracing, or like as your granny, they could have healthcare workers go into their homes. And now I think it brings the importance of us going paperless, like do we, you know build on onto this pandemic, like can we go paperless, like instead of using papers to write on whatever medical clinical data, we can use like tablets, or you can use whatever software that's needed to put on data. To this kind of like as well like enhances our system, because we've been using this paper technology for way too long, and each time you go to the hospital your document is either lost or it can't be seen, and you need to like open a new file. I think this also helps like to build it into the system where we could enhance as well as going like that's already like accelerating at the moment. I think that this is an opportunity to invest in the wisdom of the youth. I mean, youth naturally, like as we as young people are tech savvy or talented in doing in using digital technologies, and it's sad that in African countries, or I would say like in most lower developing countries, what we see is that many health challenges, or like most of any other challenges that are facing us, the solutions are left to local and international health renowned experts. But we don't think of the youth as like a key population in our continent, in our countries as well. Like Africa has 60% youth, I think, people under 25 years. And I think we need to like think of ways we can help or nurture these skills, or like make them more interested or technologically aware of what's going on, instead of just like trying to think or going to the traditional way of always using the already renowned experts and leave behind the youth. I mean, youth can I think young people should be part of the solution as we go. We should tap into the youth who are like full of innovative ideas that could disrupt the traditional thinking and modes of addressing diseases, and help with implementation efforts like how we could trace people suffering from COVID-19, or like people who were actually in contact with people who are suffering from COVID-19. So this way, I think we enhance the youth, not just to be, we don't just give them jobs. One, two, we also like we make them agents of our own economy, like drivers of our own economy, drivers of our own challenges. I mean, solutions to our own challenges and digital technology as well. I think, for example, we need to also need to think about the youth agency also in business innovation. How can they be nurtured? Like in Ghana, they're using this Corona Alleviation Program business support scheme, which like gives support to these middle and low, I don't know, you call them class or like entrepreneurs, middle and low and middle entrepreneurs, like low level entrepreneurs, giving them technology. I mean, how they nurture them and how they can use technology, leverage technology, and ensure that they don't actually collapse as rising entrepreneurs in Africa. So I think we need to capitalize on how like we could invest in the youth, especially when it comes to innovation and technology.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much, Yusra, for this opinion regarding the importance to include the youth in the process of combating the COVID-19. I would like to have your opinion also, because there is a challenge, especially in Mozambique. I'm not going to talk about Africa as well, but in Mozambique, where I am, the access to public services after the outbreak of COVID-19 is being like a challenge for everyone, and there is a need to digitalize the system. But the government is doing what it can do. But my question is special to Edson, because Edson is IT. What can the IT community do to help the government in these hard times, like to help in this special side of access to information or something like this, or some access to public services?
That's a good question, Rogério, and I hope you didn't set me up for a battle with the government. Um, I'll say this. I am. I like to believe in our youth. I like to believe in the young people that we are and that we have. Like you said, Yusra, there is just enough of us for such a huge nation, and we do definitely have the power to make the change. And I'll tell you this, Rogério, to answer your question. I think that the power is in our hands. Uh, for as long as we can keep ourselves together and get things to happen, the government will absolutely have nothing but a chance to uh, lift us up. in a sense. And by that, what do I mean? I mean, it's not, I think it is okay, of course, to expect of the government to do something about it, but I've been there for all of my life, and I know how it works. Therefore, I believe that the agent, the biggest agency for the change in that area would be us taking the lead, bringing something new, building something out of it. What do I mean? Okay, we're talking about digitizing, let's say, the healthcare system, like Yusra was talking about. Well, what does it take? My mom now uses WhatsApp, right? That's a huge achievement. My grandma died without using WhatsApp, but my mom does it. Okay, and I'm very positive that these, while these may not be 100%, representation of the Mozambican population, it is an improvement. However, what really comes at stake here is how do we use the resources that we have now to make these things possible, right? How many, not how many, but people use emails now at home. How can you actually reinforce the fact that, people use emails now? Why not, deciding to send, these, we're talking about paper-based, migration, right, to digitization, right? Why not sending these bills through their email? Well, here's the truth. Before I can, have to check on my email, I will not have to unless there's something for me to check there, right? If you send me that bill by email, if you go to the hospital and say, hey, you know what, the doctor asks you, do you have resources to access this on your phone or somewhere, at a timely fashion manner, then they say yes, give it a try, okay? Send it through their email, right? Let's see if it works. If that doesn't, what are new technologies that we can bring up, to solve this problem? And as much as the government could definitely come up with these solutions, I do believe that we as youth have the best advantage, to just go out there, find out the best technologies that we can use, the best resources that we have in order to address these problems, right? And I do have a strong hope. I've seen a lot happening around youth in Mozambique, and I have a strong hope that that's coming at some point.
Okay. Okay.
I
So
think to add on, oh, sorry. I think I
yeah,
just want to say, I think what we need actually is to invest in low tech solutions. Like opening an email requires you to have like very good internet connection. Otherwise, you can't even read an email. And majority of us struggle with internet connection, leave alone the expenses. Like having a 20 or like 30 GB a month could cost you as much as most of like, I don't know, low income earners salary. So I think what if we need to like digitize stuff, I think we also need to think of how we can digitize it like for the mass population. Otherwise we're creating inequality between those who have access to internet and those who do not have access to internet. And those who are actually literate enough to be able to use an email, because you need to register, you need to sign up for all of these things. And I don't imagine like an old grandma in the village can do that. Leave alone for example, we have the official language of English, so I don't know, unless that means of communication or medium of communication is used as Swahili, our official speaking language. I mean, English, it doesn't do for most people in my country. So we also need to think about these things. Before we want to digitalize stuff, we need to think of how we can make internet cheap, accessible, as well as um, widely available, not just confined into rural areas. I don't have to be sitting in a certain corner in my house to have access to the internet. I should have access to it wherever I am in the house. So these are the challenges I think we face as an, I don't know, I think it's just not confined to a single country, but to most like developing countries, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Yusra. 100% points to your to what you just mentioned, and I'll tell you this again. Barriers will always be there. The United States is, for example, a country where you would never expect anyone to have, you know, zero access to internet connection, but there are here, I'm sorry, cases of many that have zero to probably just a few megabytes of internet connection. per per day or per month, and the list goes on and on. And that's to say that as much as we would love everyone to just boom take on the change and we go on this spaceship to Mars, it will take time and we'll have to navigate within the resources that we have, either that being email, WhatsApp, or even a phone text, because not even everyone have access to a smartphone or a device to use technology such as these. However, that doesn't mean that they will never have it. And it also does not mean that we should stop being creative and finding and using the resources that we currently have to bring a working solution, right? And I think that it is a critical thing, especially in technology, to use agile development, which is the concept of, what do I have now that does the job, right? Launch that, have that working, and work incrementally to adjust and include the other parts that are actually not working properly. And that's a nutshell. Obviously, not the best description, but the concept that I'm trying to bring is that we do have the resources, whichever they are, as little or as many as they are. Let's really do something about it. Let's get something to happen, and that's what I believe the most in.
I think we also have something to think about. Um, we have, I think, during this pandemic, we've had a couple of African countries who had their internet shut down. I know Ethiopia, and I can't remember the other countries, but I know Ethiopia for sure had some parts of the country they shut down internet in parts of the countries. So while we're trying to think of ways we can innovate, or like we can develop technology to our own needs, we also need to think about governance and our leadership. Is our leadership ready to like digitize stuff, or is it ready to just continue with the traditional ways of doing things? I mean, I think one of the key aspects most people, or like when we discuss these things, we try to forget is leadership. I think, or tech governance, I'd say. Like, we also, before we leap, before we run, we need to crawl. Before we get there, we need to think of what we have at the moment. We're like equipped with high potent tools like around us, like in the developed world. How can we harness these capabilities? But as Africans ourselves, how do we build on what we have, as Edson correctly said? I mean, we need to have the building hands of a technology. Our leaders must have the brain, have the heart, and the muscle to think of these things. Like, do we want to digitalize information, or do we still want to maintain monopoly of data, and we have this fear of technology that we don't want to digitalize stuff? If you shut down internet, you cut off, I think, most of the population out of the world. Basically, people cannot get in touch with their families away from them. They cannot see what's going on in the world when what you're trying is like control like information. And if we don't have the freedom of expression, we don't have the freedom of the internet, I don't think we can go, oh, we need to speak of digital technology at all. Like, I think our governments or ourselves as young leaders, we need to be willing to adapt to technology, and the government needs to understand that we can't keep on like shutting down internet. Cutting down internet or services is just not the way to go, like especially now when people are speaking of the fourth industrial revolution, where everything is just going digital. We need to have people leadership that's willing to move us to that stage, not just speak of the things and don't have a platform where we can actually do these things.
Um, yeah, probably adding on to that point, Yusra, it's a critical point that you mentioned about the role of our leaderships in terms of helping us being able to make a change. And um, not to lose my point here, I'll say that um, we definitely are. I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, we had a case where electricity had to be shut down. I think it was in Maputo, if not more than that, for a couple of hours. because someone had just climbed one of the there's one of the biggest. I mean, one of the, I think it was medium tension electricity providers, and they had to shut down electricity for the entire city in order to avoid his death. So, I mean, while that was a critical thing to do, I think, it only brings to our attention that really, challenges will always be there. And, as much as our leaders can and may be willing or may not to do anything about it, I still think that we, together we all make a change. And as youth, we do have it in our hands to go after not just the change, but also our leaders to help us achieve the changes that we want to see. What I'm saying is we should, go after both sides wherever we think the problem is. And if that's our mission or passion to go for it, target the leadership if that's the case. If it's, technology, target technology. If it's innovation, target innovation. Go full, 100% full at it. And definitely changes will rise up.
Wow. Thank you guys for your nice contributions. This is really, really nice to hear your reflections, your questions, and this all intervention push us to think a little bit more deeply on the impacts of COVID-19 and how we can manage smartly. So we have now questions coming from our Facebook page. We have some viewers here asking questions, and I want to read a question from Osvaldo Agostinho. Osvaldo Agostinho is asking, I would like to know from Yusra how the government in Tanzania is influencing the tech sector in this period, specifically regarding network operators, because in Mozambique, despite the rising need to be online, the mobile companies are not doing that more on the fees. I don't know, Yusra, if you get the point here.
I think he's speaking about pricing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I got the question correct. I think nothing has changed for us as well. We still have the same pricing for, bundles, what we call them here. That's like internet fees. And yeah, despite the need to be online, we also struggle with the cost to be online. Nothing has changed. And I think our what did I say? Our response to coronavirus has been a bit strange to the rest of the world, I'll say. Maybe to the rest of Africa, maybe not the world. But yeah, we kind of didn't much involve science in how we dealt with COVID-19. As you probably know, we vested into religion and faith-based interventions. And technology did not feature in, I'd say, as part of our government response. I mean, we even had claims to say the masks that are imported in our country are infected with the virus. So I would say technology-wise, there's been an uprise of startups, like technology startups, but government-wise, I don't think the much has been going on.
Okay, great, thank you. So we are running out of time, by the way, because we're trying to manage to have this online session in 45 minutes. It's a challenge, it's not easy. And still there's a lot of questions to do, but I would like to hearing from you what opportunities, because we've talked about too much about the challenges, about the negative impacts that the COVID brought, but also maybe there is opportunities that young people, the government, and the society broadly can take during this crisis. So what opportunities? I will start with you, Edson.
Oh, great. Thank you, Rogério. Well, in tech, there is, just as always, a lot of room. One of the things we talked about today, and I think it's really critical to mention, is telemedicine slash telehealth. It may be a new concept for many of our countries, but it definitely plays a critical role in how we are going to face the next pandemic. I hope that doesn't come, but in case it comes, it will definitely be a game changer in how we're going to take care of our people in the event of a next pandemic coming up. Um, Another thing that's critical to mention here is maybe sometimes, it's not just about, tech, but it's also about us, the people, right? It's, the people right next to you, the people, but, next to your house, the small business around the corner of your roadblock, right? Let's use things that are produced locally, buy locally, right? Reach out to that business owner who may be crashing, who may be, losing their businesses at this point. Ask if you can, if you have the skills to, ask how you could potentially help making that change. Is it by offering online or non-cash payable mechanisms? Is it about providing a platform for them to sell their products online? You know, all these things are things that definitely will be relative to the location that you're in and the circumstances that you're presented to. But I do believe that the opportunities are always just around the corner, right? Whether it is in medicine or technology or just, human to human interaction, right? We have seen a lot. Now we're not even allowed to be with our friends. We're not even allowed to be next to another human being. Maybe we would, try to find ways to do better, shipping methods for products and goods. People need to eat, but they can't go to the mall because it's crowded. Find a way to get these meals and these products to the people. That's one way you can see a huge opportunity in technology, throughout the pandemic. Another way would be, and I've seen this happening a lot. There has been a lot of uh, problems or concerns about people who actually have zero resources. They have no place to be, no food to eat, nothing to actually, continue living, especially within this pandemic. Find ways to collect goods and help these people out. Create a food bank somewhere nearby if you can. Help people to donate the food, the extra food that they have, and allow these people to get food. We never know, So I think that the opportunities for change here are broader, and it really depends on the location that you are. Just look closely, look at the small problem that you have around you, right? It doesn't have to be bigger. I think, we've talked here a lot. It has to be doable, or, it has to make a change. Just look around you and see what kinds of things that actually, that you could do and would help not just you, but the people next door. I mean, the person next door, the people in your neighborhood, and maybe the people in the country, the continent, and in the world. So let's just keep an eye on these things, but and definitely we'll find a way to give back.
Good, good. So now is your turn, Yusra.
Yeah, I think I would like to speak about the
Yes, please.
opportunities in health, like digital health. So far, we've had like so many people or so many countries have or started their trials in corona vaccine. We have like 220, I believe, until now. And I think we as Africa, we need to see how we can invest in digital tech to build like intelligent networks to support the vaccine chain delivery. I know for sure, like once the vaccine is out, or like once one of the vaccines has shown efficacy and it's safe, that we're going to be the last ones to get this vaccine, simply because we have so many challenges in our countries. I think while we're trying to invest in digital technology and innovation, we first need to sort out the basic infrastructure, like build out our roads, ensure we have good health facilities before we can think of how we can digitalize and move on into there. Like we could think them concurrently, but I think you can't think of how you can digitalize a health facility, like health facility records, without having a health facility itself within your vicinity. Um, Trials in Africa have started. I think only one country in Africa has invested or like has started doing clinical trials with the vaccines. That's South Africa. And in Africa, we're the consumers of 25% of the total vaccines in the world. And I think given the larger number of vaccines that we consume, now is like the time where we can invest in our capacities as Africa. We shouldn't think of technology as just like how you can do things online, but also the physical aspects of technology, like having the actual manufacturing capacity to manufacture vaccines. This way, we can have, like, once you have a local manufacturing capacity, which we actually do in countries like Tunisia and South Africa, Egypt, I believe, as well, and Senegal and a few others as well. Now, if we have like local manufacturing, that means once a vaccine has proved to be safe and efficacious, it's easier for African countries, populations, to actually have the vaccine instead of waiting for countries elsewhere to deliver the vaccines to us. And we don't want to be left again and again, as always has been the case. When new technologies come, like especially in the health sector, it will take us almost a decade to get the technology in Africa and accessible everywhere as well. So I think we need to ensure equitable access to future vaccines. It seems to be a very unrealistic hope at the moment, but I think we need to capitalize on this pandemic to make healthcare tech in Africa, come in first and not come in last. Like, as soon as the rest of the world has a certain technology developed, we also need to have that technology in real time, not a decade later, while our populations are suffering. We also need to increase the number of local trials. I know a few countries that might be reluctant to have coronavirus trials. I wouldn't speak of my own country, but I think it could be one of them as well, because we're trying to have the monopoly on data regarding coronavirus. As you might know, we haven't been publishing like the statistics since April, and we've sort of declared like we've won the battle against coronavirus. So this reluctance actually takes away opportunities to actually try out like these kind of technologies, or like whatever is happening out there in our countries, and it gives us the opportunity to be like players in this global scenario, not just be like the recipients, where high tech ideas or like manufacturing happens elsewhere, and we are like the low tech implementers of the technology. I think that needs to stop. Like, we should not have that colonial mindset where everything that's high tech is developed abroad or like in Europe, and we are like the recipients of the technology. And I'll say I know like CDC has had this conference and regarding like establishing a framework where we can actually manufacture our own vaccines and regulate the vaccines that come in on coronavirus, I think, and this could be like a building block for other vaccines as well. Like we also need to like invest on the regulatory framework of everything tech, because if we don't have the regulation of everything tech, I think we're going to be in trouble. Because if, say, we have telehealth and you get these consultations from Kenya, how do you regulate the practice of that doctor or the whoever is giving you the service help? Who is the person that has made that app, or like the technology, or are you going to like follow the person that gave you advice? Which is like I would say part of what I would like to do for my PhD, to understand like the inequalities in health, and also how do we regulate them in our own countries? So hand in hand, regulations as well as technology. For example, now everybody's working from home. How would we ensure the labor laws that we have now envision what's happening now? So we need to think of these things. So yeah, I'll say like just to sum up, I'll say we also need to pool like the procurement of services between high, middle, and low income countries to allow like equitable distribution via like global mechanisms to increase access to future COVID-19 vaccines. And although like this is not something that everybody buys in, but we need to like capitalize on whatever is happening with WHO, trying to ensure that vaccine is accessible to everyone. And I think we need to think of how we regulate these things and how Africa can play a part in the global, disruption of technology and innovation.
All right. Thank you, guys. I have to say that this is really great lessons on impact or challenges and opportunities in technology and innovation during the times of COVID-19. So, the last words, is that possible that people can live positively during the COVID-19? If it's possible, how can we do that?
Sorry, I
Who
did not
go first?
hear you.
Yeah, I was asking if it's possible to live positively in these crazy times of COVID-19 because people they are losing hobby, they are losing hope of a good future. But is there any way so that people can live positively, waiting for better days ahead? Who go first?
Do you want me to go first or Edson?
I don't know. Maybe anyone of you
Okay.
Take on, Yusra, take on.
Okay. I think with every challenge there is opportunity, as the main theme of this talk today. So as Edson said correctly, and I really think we need to build on that. Whatever challenges we're facing now, if you're out of a job, think of the challenges that are around you. You can help your neighbor, you can help the kids that do not know where to go from school, or like they're suffering from certain kind of things that are different from yours. Think of how you can solve them. That could be opportunity for you, not just to like help someone, but to also build your own career. I think we need to think of the things that are surrounding us as opportunities, not just challenges. You're out of a job, think of how you can capitalize of being out of a job. We don't always have to like look for new like jobs in the job market, which is something everyone wants to do, or we would do because of the job, um, the unemployment problem. And this is the way we're structured to think, like we always need to get employed to survive. I think we need to think of how we can like self-employ, which I think this builds on the need to have a platform where the youth could be nurtured or could be made technologically aware of what is happening in the world or in the country, and how they can like capitalize on technology or existing technology, for example digital payments, to solve a couple of number of issues that are facing us. And I think we don't have that platform, and we need to build on that platform. Like we need the government, or like I don't know, donors, whoever is like able to invest in youth, to think of the ways we could capacitate them, not just to be job seekers, but they could be job creators on their own, to be agents of their own change instead of waiting for somebody to bring that change, using digital technology, or as we call like technology in all of it.
I think you should go. So first and foremost, I know not all of us can afford this, but if you can, stay at home. The least thing we want to see now is uh, a large number of cases ramping up at home. So I know it's hard for all of us, but please stay at home if you can. Do your best to stay at home. So that's one. And next, I'm not going to repeat myself, but I think that uh, there is just so much opportunity for change now, and COVID has, brought many of these, opportunities for change to our eyes. I'm not talking just about the fact that maybe not all of our schools can afford to teach their children from home. Not all of the companies can afford to have their employees do their work from home. Not all of our relatives that work at the very rural area where most of our food comes from can afford to actually get out there and do their work. So really, what I'm trying to say is, you know, opportunity is just in the next corner. Just look around you. Look at, the problems that you're facing, your family is facing, your siblings are facing, your relatives are facing, the people in your neighborhood are facing. And from there on, build on to how you could potentially, bring a change, not just to these, because I think that there is a concept, especially in tech nowadays, which is how do you build a bulletproof solution, right? Which is a solution to, whether that is a business or problem that, regardless of what kind of problem comes up next, whether it's a pandemic or anything, it can still bring a change, right? I think that this is the best time that we have to actually bring something that is bulletproof enough for, probably some of the worst things that we have seen or encountered so far. So really opportunities are out there from how you could help your, sibling, get access to their education, to how you could help your grandparents get access to their doctor because they can't get out of the house now. So, just I think that let's just look around these little corners that we have within our own homes and our own relatives. And from there, obviously build up from there to something greater. And I'll say this, Africa is not in any way going to catch up with uh, the fifth industrial revolution, which is not up here yet. I strongly believe in us, in the youth that we have in the continent, and I'm very positive that by the time the fifth industrial revolution hits, we'll not be trying to catching up with the fourth, third, or whatever. We will be there in some shape or form and trying to be part of it, and that's because we can. It's in our hands, and we can do it.
Wow, sure. Let me so add on it that
Yes.
say the
Yeah.
Malcolm X, the future belongs to those who prepare for you today, and we must prepare ourselves to live the future because the coronavirus, the COVID-19, unfortunately, is a disease that can last a little bit more with us, and we have to adopt new behavior so that we can go around it. Okay, so unfortunately, also I have to say goodbye. We have to end our conversation by now,
Okay.
but the conversation continues. People can go to our Facebook page because this video will be recorded, will be posted there, and people can continue asking questions, can continue watching this, and hopefully our guests can go in our pages and answer the question that can come up after the conversations. Deal?
Okay.
Deal?
Just to speak of the last word, I think whatever solutions we're thinking of having, you also have to keep in mind on how these widen the inequalities that we're facing as youth and as Africans. I think with every solution we're trying to come up with, try to think of how you're going to reduce the widening gap between like income inequality and wealth and every other thing. So like it shouldn't just be a space for the privileged. I mean, which I believe is the space of privilege, technology and innovation. I don't. I mean, in our African societies, we don't expect the person from like a rural area to be like an innovator of an application, of which he's never or like never even seen like the internet in a day of his life. So I think as we think of technology and innovation, we should also think of the inequality that causes or comes along with it, and we should be cautious on how we deal with technology and innovation. It can be a dangerous, but also can be a powerful tool.
Sure, definitely. Thank
All right.
you very much. Once again, guys,
Thank you, Rogério.
thank you for your very good insights. I believe that people who are watching this live, they are hopefully amazed with all the opinion you gave us today. I'm going to end the live now, and hopefully next week or we will come up with one more topic on our virtual cafe. Thank you for your time. Bye bye.
Thank you for having me, Rogério.
Yeah.